going to be those numbers right there, 6224, flat out. Purpose of this, policy and procedures for screening, testing, documenting and tracking Department of the Navy, DLN, and military personnel and military SEALs Command CIDMARS, civilian mariners. Those are your support ships, like those two big gray ones that are over there. Those are MSCs. They're all over the place. They're pretty cool, actually. I would be on one of those if I could. They get paid a lot of money too, $600,000 a year, man. Basically for early detection, that's all. You don't really need to know anything about that. These are the strategies to the program summary. Basically to detect it, to protect people, specifically tuberculosis for people that may have had it and it's just latent in their system. Conduct TB screening, targeted testing in non-military occupation populations. That's basically like your CDC employees. CDC as in like child development centers. Any employees that have contact with like the military. This is it. This is probably the most important thing in this entire thing, all right? Overall. You can take a picture of it or it's going to be sent out as well. What I added on this one was actually this guy right here. The DD form 2766, probably the most important form. And in a lot of times when they make like shadow records for deployment, this is about the only thing that they take in there, all right? And the reason why is because this actually has all your immunizations, all of your history, your PHA is supposed to get documented in there. No one ever does it. It's supposed to be, if you're a PRP status, if you're a flight status, if you are whatever, everything is in there. The most important form in your medical record is literally that. Some may argue that it's going to be like your physical, but no, it's not.
What's another name for that shadow record that we learned yesterday? Convenience. And I only want to say this about TB because it's not on the slides. What's the only way to confirm TB?
X-ray.
Chest X-ray, right? I've seen that on the test.
And again with that, right? Laboratory studies. That's considered a study as well. Radiographs, you have to have some kind of confirmation. It has to be confirmed. So again, just like H1 said, just like we were talking a little while ago, it has to be confirmed.
So which one of these are you filling out at each PHA? So which form is that one? This should be the 8, isn't it? Isn't the 8 one? Yeah, so the 8 is the one you're filling out annually.
When would you feel like the initial boot camp?
Recruit training.
Yep.
Correct. And if you were like, let's say if you're working in occupational health, you're working in preventive medicine, the only other time that you would do it is if you're like, if one of the H1 ones, hey, you got out of the Navy, retired, and then like you're coming into work on base, you got to refill it out again, even if you have a history of it, because it's a different title, different position, different medical record.
What's another form for the adult immunization record? There's another form. It's an SF form. 601, yes, that's correct. 600 is the notes that you're always writing, and then 601 is your immunization record. And the PHS 731? Which one's the PHS 731? Yellow cards. You have 3 different things that document immunizations. Technically 4, because they're also documented on your 2766. But no, at least when you're studying, the 6230/4 and your SF601 are going to be both adult immunization records.
In the advancement exam, you may actually see the PHS 731 as the CDC 731, because it was actually updated to the CDC 731. All right. So if some maniacal E7 or above from MedPedic is just like, hey, I'm going to put both of them on there, and you write down either one or the other, you're right. Either way.
The 24/8 you have to do in your post-EDHA too.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it also depends on where it is that you're going. Mm-hmm. So if you deploy to a place that's not endemic, the policy could be that you're not going to do it.
But as you guys already learned, the DHA instruction is very similar to the PHA. You're going to have a lot of the similar requirements you get done during a PHA done after a post-deployment assessment.
All right, so again, recruit training, the initial. The interim is going to be annual, done at your PHA. It's supposed to be done at your PHA. Now in your ePHA, there's like a button that you click that you travel anytime from there. So the form has been replaced, essentially, through the ePHA. However, if you're at a location that does not have the ePHA, like you're on a submarine or deployed or something like that, this is the form you're going to use. Now, the 9/9 is going to be for anybody who's actually receiving treatment for LTBI, for latent tuberculosis infection. That's going to be the people that have to go in and get medication and things like that. Most important one is this one, overall. Mycobacterium tuberculosis, that's a complex bacteria that causes tuberculosis. Write that down. You might see it as M tuberculosis, or they might actually write it all out as Mycobacterium tuberculosis. That's the one that killed Doc Holliday. That's the one that causes consumption, if anybody watches Penny Dreadful. I love Penny Dreadful, by the way.
What BSL level did we talk about that's recommended for TB? It was actually 3. It was 3 for that, right? TB was 3, and then we had Ebola for 4.
Respiratory things are going to be the most important ones.
Yeah, that's why I said COVID was more around on that 3 range also.
Personnel diagnosed with excuse me, LTBI are based on a positive skin or blood test and without active disease or not infectious. So that's for like latent TBI. All personnel must be screened or clinically evaluated for persons with prior LTBI diagnosis. So if they had LTBI prior to, like you came from, I don't know, the Philippines or something, and you may have eventually had it, then you're still screened overall, regardless. Recruits, that is the most important thing because why? You're living in a close contact location, you're living in a ship, like you have to wait 6 months. You have to be cleared for 6 months prior to going on a ship before you have that. That's the question, and it's on one of the next slides. You got to be cleared because you're in close quarters.
You're already going to be sharing every disease under the sun anyways while you're there.
It's on.
Yeah, it's actually right there.
Yeah.
Screening and testing documented within 6 months prior to reporting aboard a commissioned vessel. The vessel is acceptable. 6 months. You got to be screened for that prior to. You think about it too as well. Obviously, this is probably not your guys' first utilization, and if it is, then you're about to learn something. When you get orders, you typically have to do a suitability screening, which means your PHA, everything has to be up to date. What do you do with your PHA? Tuberculosis screen. As long as it's within those 6 months, you're totally fine. Specifically for a ship, again, because you're in close quarters. It could be argued that you can also do that if you're going to go to like the field, because if you're sleeping huddled up next to your battle buddy, you're going to be sleeping real close. Real close. Once again, just like Agent Money mentioned right there, that's going to be your interim form, flat out. And just like I mentioned to you guys as well, they're going to be the first portion being the portion that you guys are going to be putting in for your PHA. Have I traveled? Have I deployed? Did I go to Cambodia? Whatever. That's going to be like based off of that. It's no longer required for any personnel that have LTBI test results to be documented within 6 months prior to separation or retirement. There's an entire like subsection chapter that says what kind of care people can get from the Veterans Administration after the fact. But if someone's separated, if they ask a question, something like, hey, this person's separating within 3 months, 90 days, do they need to get tested for LTBI? No. All right. 6 months is going to be the threshold.
Again, that number is going to come up every single time for separating or retire. The 180 days or 6 months. So anytime you hear the word separation, I want you to associate 180 days or 6 months with that exact word. 40 days.
Sunny D, man. They need to make one that says purple stuff instead. You guys gotta do those commercials. Testing guidance. The approved tuberculin skin test, TST, write that one down. TST is tuberculin skin test. There's a difference. The material for that's going for the routine MAN2 test. MAN2 test is the actual what you use for it. Tween 80 stabilized intermediate strength PPD. 5 tuberculin unit, 5 TU equivalent. The other one that I really would write down and why I highlighted it in red is going to be PPD, purified protein derivative. Write that one down.
And how are you giving that immunization? Well, it's technically intradermally, if I'm not mistaken. It's the only one that's really intradermal to cause that bubble on your skin.
They always mess it up.
Yeah, because even MMR is something to do. Yeah. So again, tuberculin skin test, it's TST. MAN2 test, tween 80 stabilized intermediate strength PPD, 5 tuberculin units. 5. You can see the number again here in a little bit. Like we were talking a little while ago, you're gonna document in those forms right there, your adult immunization record, your children's immunization record, of course, if you have kids, or if you're documenting, in your chronological record right there, the 2766, and in the systems. So it's gonna be either MERS. I think that the bibs are still gonna reference Alta, even though it doesn't exist, but if you see Genesis in there and you see Alta, I mean, you're not gonna be wrong, you're gonna really put it on there, hopefully not. But if you don't know what actually Alta stands for, because I have seen that on the advancement exam actually, it's the Armed Forces Health Longitudinal Technology Application.
Yep.
And I really wish they brought it back. And these are gonna be your shipboard ones right there. So your non-tactical ADP program, SNAP, and SAMS, so shipboard automated medical systems. I've actually never used those before. I've only been shipboard embarked with Marines, and
They're just as Alta.
you don't say I was gonna have that. Go back to the Marines then. All right, so PPE, when you actually do the test, the tuberculin skin test, has to be read within 48 to 72 hours. So you don't want your search number to go in like after Wednesday. No test like that should be done on Thursdays or Fridays, unless of course you're on a vessel, or you are like 24 hours working all the time. Like there's somebody at your VAS or your aid station or your clinic at all times. And the reason why is because if they don't show up by that time frame, what do we have on Fridays? We got Liberty, right? For 48 hours. So you can't do it. You can do it on Friday, and they come back on Monday. Make sure they come back on Monday is kind of like the issue right there. If they don't show up at all, you have to mark it as not read, and they have to come back. Usually at that point, that's when you contact their chief, their gunny, their chain of command, whoever, and say like, hey, they need to come back over here and get their TST done again. It has to be marked as not read, and we do need to write this one down right there. When you record the results, they have to be recorded in 0 millimeters, 0 millimeters. That's the actual little the actual ruler that we have right there. It is malleable, so like malleable meaning that you can actually fold it. So like grab a piece of paper, put it under your skin like that, and you measure that. It gives you literally directions right there. It says inspect, palpate, touch, and measure. You actually like, when you see the redness right there, you're not measuring the redness. You're measuring the actual raised portion. And that's why it's malleable, so it actually wraps around the skin. Biggest takeaway, 0 and 72 hours. These are other tests that they do there. I don't think I've ever actually seen these on the UMass exam. You might see quantiferon, but not really. Again, I don't think I've ever seen that before. The other thing you may see in it, just like H117, is going to be x-rays. Trying to hurry up here because I went a little over my time. And I want to give you guys a break because then actually the next one's going to be really short. This is a glossary. 2% of personnel are going to be tested per year. Those are going to be like just random testing. The Navy used to actually do random chlamydia testing for females. That went away. We used to get the report coming from the clinic or the hospital, whatever. My aid station used to just get it and be like, hey, Sergeant, whoever's got to go over here and grab the chlamydia test. They don't do that. But now it's basically just done at random. Special situations, I have seen this one there before actually, and that's going to be the Bacillus calmette-guerin immunization. So if a person shows up, they were let's say a former national from somewhere else, France, England, whatever, and they had this vaccine before, you still have to test them the exact same way as if they never had any vaccine, or testing them with the initial Mantoux test. Like regardless, even if they have, no, I was treated for this, I got this vaccine for tuberculosis. Sorry, no, it doesn't work in the States. Number 5, like I said right there, a little while ago, 5 TUs, 5 tuberculin units, equivalent. Evaluate all individuals with a TST in duration of greater than 5 to determine if their test is positive based on the risk factors as outlined in table 1 below. This is the takeaway.
So I know I talked to H1 Martinez about this before, and I know seeing on the test, with that table there, what they like to ask is your low, medium, and high risk on those durations. So based off the duration size, what kind of risk is that patient for TB?
And they're all multiples of 5, so you see those there. Greater than 5 could be that they actually have. contact with it.
Are they gonna ask if the ECG gives a false positive or not, and what you do after?
Well, they might ask that, actually, that's a good question to bring up, because they actually could ask that, however, I don't really think they'd be like that maniacal to do that, I would hope not. But after 15 years, you know, nothing really surprises me anymore.
That's one of those things where it might be in the weeds and more specific towards the Prev Med tech world, that they probably won't go in the weeds that much for that. That'd be like asking a biomed question on how to fix a piece of equipment that all of a sudden malfunctions.
If you don't know the answer, right, you send it out.
Yes. Depot maintenance, level 3.
Yeah, level 3 or 3 set, level 4. Send that back to the depot. Alright, so
There's that chest x-ray.
the history, yeah, the chest x-ray portion, that's the most important thing right there. Because it confirms it. Alright, x-rays confirm that you actually, that a person, it does have it or not. That they have consumption and, you know, was it, you can make my day or whatever the Doc Holliday said. If you've ever been to Tombstone, Arizona, it's pretty cool. Like, it's great. Beautiful out there. I love the desert. Another takeaway for this one right here, any person with suspected active disease should be masked and isolated immediately, regardless. If you guys ever been to the field or anybody's like ringside overall, most of the AMOLs, you're gonna have, so the 637, which is the preventive medicine maneuver AMOL, I'm gonna go through that in chapter 9. Hopefully I can teach that for you guys, because I really like teaching that one. That's like I love being in the field, that's like my thing. I'd much rather be doing that than doing paperwork right now. A lot. I'll dig a hole any day.
That should be your recruitment for PrevMed too. If you want to deploy a lot, be a PrevMed tech.
No, it's not. No, believe me, no. I know plenty of chiefs, including Master Chief Baya and Master Chief Turner, who disagree entirely. Females are actually more in need. There was this is off subject, but there was like a whole push for actually making it like having both sexes, both genders, like on small boys, for having like the actual diversity, because you know women being on ships and things like that, like you need having 2 males as a standby for a female. That's not very cash money. You want to have the diversity, and it makes sense.
Or only having one female at a hospital in one department, where they get stuck with it all.
Yeah. You know her?
Sure do.
You have the same look that I do. She is very, very, very well
She used to
known.
throw shit at me
Yeah.
on the boat.
Oh, you were on her on the ship? She was senior? Yeah, she's a master chief now. I knew her when she was chief turner. She made senior chief in, she made master chief in like 16 years. 16, 17 years. I think she's still been like for 17
She
years.
shouldn't have.
Yeah, it's insane.
I have some words to say about her. She's the reason I'm in therapy.
Like I was mentioning with the freaking, with the AMOs, you're typically going to have N95s. That one specifically, the 637, does have N95s. So if, I've actually had to do it in the field before. I was in Yuma doing some support with the task force, Drug Task Force North, like at the border. And we actually had to give them, we had a person that was suspected to have that, so we actually had to pull out my AMO, give them freaking N95, and drive all the way to the branch clinic to make sure that they were like good to go. Biggest takeaway from this one are going to be your isoniazid, and that's going to be your INH treatment. That's the actual treatment when it comes for tuberculosis. The other big takeaway from this is going to be direct observed therapy. I don't know if that one's still, yes it is. So direct observed therapy, that's going to be when you have your people, and it's going to be brought up as well tomorrow when I teach you guys chapter 2 for the malaria prophylaxis one. Direct observed is basically they go into your clinic, see the pill, put it in their mouth, they take it. Alright, a lot of people don't like taking this, unfortunately, because it does affect the liver, like quite a bit, and the Navy, you know, we have drinking in our fighting song. So unfortunately, it is a culture that does consume alcohol regularly, but it does affect your liver. So liver function tests must be done as well for this. That's going to be your biggest one. And LTBI treatment, the isoniazid, the INH is going to be documented on that form. NAVMED 6224/9. That's a monthly evaluation. You can put it in there. Yes, I saw this person take their medication. That's it. I wouldn't really worry about the doses. I would just say those are the medications.
So again, the tests likes to talk about most common, least common. Another word they like is preferred, right? So I would pay attention that that first one is the preferred treatment regimen for the INH 5 milligrams daily for 9 months instead of the twice weekly for 9 months.
Yeah, it's preferred because it's more, it's less daunting on the person and on their liver. But it can be done that way. And you don't restart the 9-month daily INH regimen if at least 207 doses can be amended in 12 months. So if you have that time frame, that person's not going anywhere, not going to TAD or anything, then you do that. And you basically just make that judgment based on what they're doing. If they're going to be there, if they're only there for training, you're going to do the 9-month one. If they're there for an entire year because they're permanent staff, you're going to do the 12-month one.
And that
It
one's
depends on what your provider says as well. Your infectious disease provider, what they say. You don't have the choice. Even as PMTs, we can only make recommendations.
that bullet point he just mentioned has been a test question. They talk about the restarting of it and what is indicated for that.
Nothing has to be notified, just like in the previous slide. It says right there, medical event reports have to be submitted within 24 hours. And that was one of the ones that was submitted within 24 hours. So tuberculosis confirmed, or even if it's suspected, it has to be submitted within 24 hours overall. Suspected or probable, it has to be submitted, 24 hours. Tuberculosis, 24 hours. I wouldn't put that stay in there. I left it in there because it's numbers. The Navy likes to ask numbers when it comes to asking questions, but I don't really worry about it too much. We do actually notify the local health department as well. So we are in constant contact with Portsmouth Health Department, which is actually right there on High Street, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Hampton. We even get phone calls from like Michigan, like all these places where people go out and they get treated for STIs because they're on leave or whatever, and they contact us to make sure that they were actually treated. It happens all around. Preferred, the only thing to really take away from this is medical department personnel. The still gold standard is going to be N95s.
That should always be the main thing that pops up in your head when it's talking about respirators, because they mention it all the time in the 5100 manual also. And an easy way to kind of remember that urgent report too, not only are your bacteria type diseases the ones that are to be afraid of, but anything that's airborne, right? Because it's going to be a lot easier to inhale whatever's in the air, and that's why TB falls into that urgent category.
You guys should watch Outbreak for real. It's airborne. Whoa, the movie just got so much more tense. All right, that's it. They're on a break now, right?
Correct.
Cool. The next